What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and I made a video talking about 10 common rules mistakes that beginners make that are making them lose. Basically, rulings that are advantageous for the player that beginners don't know about. But in this video, we'll be going over 10 common rules mistakes that are disadvantageous for the player. Beginners often don't know about these rules and end up unintentionally cheating in winning games that they should have otherwise lost. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but this is the harsh reality of Marvel Champions rules, and I've often made these rules mistakes resulting in cheated wins myself. Obviously, since this is a co-op game, if you want to play by your own house rules, that's completely fine, because some of the rulings that I'm about to cover don't really make sense thematically and can be a little controversial. But these are the official rulings, so let's go ahead and jump into it with rules mistake number 1. And we're already down at the table, and I set up the situation here for us to be playing Peter Parker Spider-Man, and we're taking on Ultron here. And let's say for this example, we already have the helicarrier and the quincarrier in play, both of these supports here. So the helicarrier says as an action, you can exhaust it, choose a player, reduce the resource cost of the next card that player plays this phase by 1. For the quincarrier, it says resource, exhaust the quincarrier to generate a wild resource. Let's say, for example, we're in the villain phase and Ultron's going to do Peter Parker Spider-Man a face down counter card. And let's say we review the encounter card, and it is the S.H.I.E.L.D. Pass, one of the most iconic cards in Marvel Champions. This is a treachery. Whenever we reveal it, we have to bring out our set-aside nemesis minion and our set-aside nemesis side scheme and do all that stuff, which is pretty bad. But let's say in our hand, we have the enhanced Spire Sense here. It's a one-cost event. As a hero interrupt, when a treachery card, S.H.I.E.L.D. Pass is a treachery, is revealed from the encounter deck, we can cancel its one reviewed effects. That'll cancel the entire effects of this card because everything is a part of the one reviewed here, right? So one thing with this is that all we gotta do is pay one cost to play the enhanced Spire Sense. Well, we could easily do that by tossing a resource from our hand, like the Spire Tracer. It's one energy resource right here. So if we discard it, we can play the enhanced Spire Sense and cancel the Shadow Pass. But with resource generators, we can also use them to help pay for the enhanced Spire Sense. However, the first rules mistake that a lot of beginners make is that we cannot use actions during the villain phase. So for example, for a helicarrier here, it says, we exhaust it as an action to reduce the resource cost of the next card that we play by 1. So if we do that, this will make the enhanced Spire Sense 0 cost. However, actions can only be triggered during the player phase, so we actually can't use a helicarrier to play the enhanced Spire Sense during the villain phase. We could exhaust a quincarrier though, because it's a resource, which we can exhaust anytime that we need to spend a resource. So we can do that to play the enhanced Spire Sense right here. So next time you're playing a game of Marvel Champions, don't forget that we cannot use actions during the villain phase. Moving on to rules mistake number 2 that beginners are unintentionally using to cheat. So in this situation, let's say we are still playing Spider-Man against Ultron, and we have a bunch more cards in play here. So let's say we have 2 copies of Team Building Exercise in play, a Helicarrier and a Death Focus right here. So rules mistake number 2 is that Team Building Exercise cannot stack with each other or effects are similar to each other. So team building exercise here is a 2-cost support, and it reads hero action, exhaust team building exercise, then play a card from your hand that shares a trait with your hero, reducing its resource cost by 1. So the way that this action works is different than helicarrier. Because of the cost arrow here, and it says to play a card from your hand, right whenever you exhaust team building exercise, you have to play that card from your hand immediately. Versus the helicarrier here, it says you can exhaust it, choose a player, then reduce the resource cost of the next card that player plays this phase by 1. So if you exhaust a helicarrier, you can, for example, still exhaust Peter Parker Spider-Man to, Thor for 1 for the main scheme, and then you can play a card right now, and then its cost will still be reduced by 1. If you are using the team building exercise, for example, you cannot exhaust it and then thwart, for 1, and then still play that card, right? The moment that you are exhausting team building exercise, you have to play that card immediately. So because of that reason, we cannot use 2 team building exercises at the same time. Let's say in this example, we want to play the quincarrier. It has the Avengers trait and the vehicle trait. It says play only if your identity has the Avengers trait, and we do have the Avengers trait here. So since it has the Avengers trait and we also have the Avengers trait, we can use Student Builder exercises to play this card because it shares a trait with your hero. So let's say I exhaust this as a hero action. Well, now I can play quincarrier for 2 costs, but I cannot also exhaust this team building exercise for the exact same card because like we said before, right whenever I exhaust it, I have to play the card. Something that we could do, for example, is if we exhaust a helicarrier first, we can reduce the cost of the next card that we play by 1. So that will make quincarrier only 2 costs. Then we can exhaust team builder exercise, and then play the Queen Care from our hand for only one cost. So let's say we like throw away a resource here from our hand so that we could play the Queen Care right here. And that will be able to get the Queen Care in play. Because of this, the team building exercise has a little bit less versatility than a card like the Helicare or even Depth Focus. So let's say, for example, we have the Swing Web Kick in our hand. It is a superpower card, 3-cost event. Well, we can exhaust Depth Focus here, hero action, exhaust this card, reduce the resource cost of the next superpower card you play this turn by 1. So we can exhaust Depth Focus, and then after that, exhaust Helicarrier. And now the Swing Web Kick is only going to be 1 cost. We can throw away 1 resource, in our hand, like a Power Leadership, for example, and then play the Swing Web Kick here because it is a superpower. Specific wording of cards can affect how their abilities work, so make sure next time you're playing Mario Champions that you don't use 2 team building exercises for the same card. Alright, I had to change the hero here to display rules mistake number 3. So let's say in this example we are playing the Hulk and we are fighting Ultron right here and we just have the Helicarrier in play. That's the 3-cost support that we can exhaust to reduce the cost of the next card that we play by 1. Let's say in this example, we want to play Ready for a Fight. This is a 1-cost upgrade and the requirement is a physical resource to play this card. Because of that, if we exhaust the Helicarrier right here, it will reduce the cost of the next card that we play by 1, so it will make this a 0-cost card. But we cannot play it here because the requirement is a physical resource. So even though this is a 0-cost card, we still have to spend a physical resource when paying for this card. So the Helicarrier is not a good use to play Ready for a Fight. We probably just want to spend like a physical resource right here from our hand to play the Ready for a Fight. A similar example, let's say instead of playing Ready for a Fight, we want to play What Doesn't Kill Me. This is a 2-cost event and the requirement is a physical resource. Well, if we exhaust a Helicarrier here, it'll still make this a 1-cost card, but we still need that physical resource. But if we use like a Ready for a Fight, which is also a physical resource, then we can play the What Doesn't Kill Me here, with the Helicarrier and the Ready for a Fight. So it just depends. The Helicarrier will still reduce the cost of the next card that you play. However, if it says requirement and there's a resource there, that resource must be spent no matter what the cost of the card is whenever you're playing that specific card. A card that works a bit different because of its wording is something like Crushing Blow right here. So this is a 1-cost event, but it says you can only spend physical resources to pay for this card. So if I exhaust a Helicarrier, it's a 0-cost card now. I can just play it here for free because the exact wording of you can only spend a physical resource to pay for this card is still met, right? I'm not paying for this card with the mental or energy or wild resource, but since it's 0 cost now with the Helicarrier, it's free to play. I'm not spending any other resource. I can just exhaust Helicarrier to play a Crushing Blow here. Rules mistake number 3 is basically just keeping in mind how requirements work with resources and paying for cards. Moving on to rules mistake number 4, and we're back with Peter Parker Spider-Man right here. And let's say we're in Alter Ego and we want to play Moon Girl. So she's a 3-cost ally, but she says play only if your identity has a champion or genius trait. We do have the genius trait here in Alter Ego, so we can play her. As a response, after you play Moon Girl from your hand, draw 1 card for each mental resource used to pay for her. Well, there's a huge difference between overpaying and paying. So she is 3 costs. So if we pay for her, we can only pay for her with 3 resources, right? Anything over that is going to be considered overpaying. So let's say in my hand here, I have all these cards and Moon Girl, right? So if I wanted to, these are all mental resources. I could use Scientist generate a mental resource and I use 5 more mental resources right here, right? So I could use 6 mental resources here and then play Moon Girl. Well, in that situation, if I were to do that, I would then draw 3 cards because I only use 3 mental resources when paying for her, but I use 3 extra resources when overpaying for her. It's important to note that in Mario Champions, there is a huge distinction between overpaying and paying, and a card like Moon Girl is probably where that distinction was made because it would be way too powerful if we could overpay for her and draw tons more cards than her cost right there. A card that was unfortunately hurt by this ruling is Ant-Man right here. So this is a 0-cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, and 0 hit points. It says Ant-Man gets +1 hit point for each PIM counter on him. As an interrupt, whenever Ant-Man enters play, place 1 PIM counter on him to a max of 4 for each resource that you overpaid for Ant-Man's cost. So Ant-Man wants you to overpay for him, right? So Ant-Man specifically has that overpay word, and it's a card that we want to overpay for to get his hit points up. However, with this card, the Power of Leadership, it's a little bit weird. So it says, max 2 per deck. It's a resource card. Double the number of resources this card generates while paying for a leadership blue card. Well, Ant-Man is a leadership, blue card. But it says right here specifically, double the number of resources this card generates while paying for a leadership card, not while overpaying for a leadership card. So if we use a Power Leadership, to pay for Ant-Man right here, the Power Leadership can only generate 1 WAD resource, which is pretty unfortunate. So we can't use this to generate doubles here for Ant-Man because he wants to be overpaid for, and this card cannot help overpay. It can only help pay for. So that is a very unfortunate ruling here that a lot of people don't like. And yeah, with Ant-Man, even the Wasp ally, they work in the exact same way, where you have to overpay for them. You cannot use the power of cards to generate 2 resources for that. All right, let's move on to rules mistake number 5 and have the table set up here for that. And that is the distinction between dealing and taking damage. So let's say, for example, we are playing Spider-Man again against Ultron, and we have the Power Stone module set with us for this scenario. And Power Stone will give the attached character +1 scheme or +1 thwart, and also +1 attack. And as a force response, after a hero or villain deals 3 more damage to attached character with a single attack, attach the Power Stone to the attacking hero or villain. And let's say in this example, we have the Power Stone already attached here to Peter Parker Spider-Man. And then let's say, for example, that we're in the villain phase and Ultron is about to attack Peter Parker Spider-Man. So first we can trigger Spider Sense as interrupt. When the villain initiates an attack against you, we can draw a card. So let's just draw a card here. And now Ultron's going to attack us, so he's going to deal himself a phase down boost card. Well, let's say, for example, the card that we drew was a backflip. So now we have the backflip in our hand. And we're going to take this attack here to the face because we can play the backflip. So we review the boost card, and it's going to be 2 boost icons and Ultron's 2 attack. So he's going to deal 4 damage here to Peter Parker Spider-Man. Well, we can play a backflip. It's a 0 cost event, so we can play this here for free. As an interrupt, when you would take any amount of damage from an attack, prevent all the damage. Unfortunately, damage dealt and damage taken is distinctly different. So damage dealt right here is 4, and then we take 0 damage because we prevent all of that. However, the specific word on Power Stone here says, after a hero or villain, Ultron is a villain, deals 3 or more damage to attached character with a single attack. Well, Ultron just dealt 4 damage here to Peter Parker Spider-Man. We attach the Power Stone to attacking hero or villain. So now Ultron's going to take the Power Stone here. Even though we took no damage from an attack, the damage was still dealt over to us. So the backflip was not able to prevent the damage in that situation. Let's run that back really quickly here. And let's say, for example, it's the exact same thing with the same boost card. But this time we have a tough stats card on Peter Parker Spider-Man. Well, it's going to go the exact same way. Because the tough stats card says here, the next time this character would take any amount of damage, discard this stats card instead. So if Ultron attacks us, Spider Sense, we can draw a card. And then he gets his phase down boost card. Then we review the boost, 2 boost icons +2, so it's going to be 4 damage. Well, he's going to deal 4 damage on Peter Parker Spider-Man, take the Power Stone because more than 3 damage was dealt, and then how much damage do we take? We take no damage because we discarded the Tough Stats card instead. So even though, we don't actually take any damage, the Power Stone will still transfer. And that is one of the more weird rulings in Marvel Champions, but dealing and taking damage is very distinct and different card effects. I will say dealing or taking damage, you have to be very specific in where the damage is being displaced. Is it damage dealt or is it damage taken? So if you ever find yourself playing the most difficult scenario in Marvel Champions, run the Accuser. The Power Stone is a required module set in that scenario, as make sure that whenever he deals damage, even if you can prevent all the damage taken, that damage is still dealt, and you have to transfer the Power Stone. One really quick thing to keep in mind is that if you exhaust to defend and use your defense stat, that does reduce the amount of damage dealt, right? So if you reduce it by 3, and then with Peter Parker's defense stat, and the damage dealt is now less than 3, then a Power Stone will not transfer. Hopping over to rules mistake number 6 is that boost effects resolve before the attack goes through. So for this example, let's say we're playing Peter Parker Spider-Man and we have the Black Cat ally in play, and she already has 1 damage counter on her, so she only has 1 hit point left. And let's say Ultron's attacking us. So we can trigger Spider Sense again, and we can draw a card, and then Ultron will get a phase down boost card. And then let's say that we're going to exhaust Black Cat here to defend the attack. So now Ultron's attack is redirected at Black Cat instead of at Peter Parker Spider-Man. Now we review the boost card. And let's say it is a concussive blast here. Okay, so boost effect, deal 1 damage to each character you control. We resolve the boost immediately before Ultron's attack goes through and hits Black Cat. So 1 damage to each character you control. We take a damage on Peter Parker, brings him 3 down to 2 life, and we put 1 damage here on Black Cat. Well, unfortunately, she is defeated here, right? Because she has 2 damage counters and 2 hit points. So we discard her because she just got defeated, and the boost here is resolved. And then now Ultron's attack, it's going to get redirected at Peter Parker Spider-Man because the ally that was blocking is no longer in play. It's no longer a valid target. So now Ultron's going to hit Peter Parker Spider-Man for 2 damage. And since we already declared Black Cat as a defender, we can no longer decide to exhaust Peter Parker Spider-Man to defend for 3. So we actually have to stay right up here, and Ultron's going to be hitting us for 2, and that will actually bring us from 2 down to 0. So that is a very unfortunate instance of how the Concussive Blast can end a game if you have an ally chump blocking here. So let's make sure that we resolve boost effects before the actual attack goes through. And if an ally is defeated with the boost effect, the attack will redirect on the player. So yeah, this is a very, very tough ruling, but unfortunately, that's the way it goes in Marvel Champions. All right, we're on rules mistake number 7 now. And this rules mistake is if an encounter card is dealt during step 4 of the villain phase, where you are revealing encounter cards, you have to review that encounter card that was just dealt as well. So for example, let's say we're playing Peter Parker Spider-Man, and we are taking on Ultron right here. And then we're on step 3 of the villain phase, so Ultron will deal us 1 face down encounter card. So now he's already done dealing encounter cards. We're going to move on here to step number 4, where we're going to be revealing encounter cards. There's only 1 encounter card to reveal. So we reveal it here, and let's say it is the invasive AI. So this is a side scheme. It says when reviewed, each player discards the top 3 cards of their deck. So this will also come with 3 per player threat. So let's put the side scheme right here. 3 threat on it, and we discard the top 3 cards of your deck. So we only have 3 cards left. We discard all 3 cards, and then we deck out. So the punishment for decking out is getting dealt a face down encounter card. So even though we're in step 4 of the villain phase, we can still get that face down encounter card dealt to us because of an effect from decking out. We immediately reshuffle our deck, and then we put everything back, in the new shuffle right here. So we got the invasive AI, but we're currently still on step number 4, where we're supposed to be revealing each encounter card in front of us, and there is a new encounter card in front of us, unfortunately. So we have to review this card as well, and it's like an advanced Ultron drone, so we get this minion here also into play. A good way to remember is that basically, as long as you're still in step 4 of the villain phase, as long as you have any face down encounter cards in front of you, they all must be reviewed. This is another disadvantageous ruling for the player that a lot of beginners do not know about. Alright, I just reset the table here, and we are moving on to rules mistake number 8, and that is that beginners often forget that minions have to attack during the activation phase. So of course, let's say we are playing Spider-Man against Ultron here, and we are in step 2 of the villain phase, the activation step. One thing to keep in mind here is that I changed Ultron's stage, so let's say he's on his stage 2 right now. So let's say Ultron's going to attack Peter Parker Spider-Man. Well, he has a force interrupt, and we have an interrupt. The force interrupt will take priority. So it says here, whenever Ultron attacks you, put the top card of your deck into play, face down, engage with you as a drone minion. Until the end of this attack, Ultron gets +1 attack for each drone minion engaged with you. So he's attacking us right now. We're going to trigger the force interrupt. We get a face down drone minion. With the effect of Ultron drones, each drone minion has a scheme of 1, attack of 1, and base hit point of 1. So Ultron is attacking us right now. We can now trigger Spire Sense and draw a card. Then Ultron's going to deal himself a face down boost card, and let's say we take this attack here to the face. So he's hitting with 2 attack +1, so 3 attack. This would be the face down boost card. We reveal it, which is boost effect. Choose either spend a physical resource or put the top card of your deck into play, face down, engage with you as a drone minion. Let's say we pick the second effect here. So now we get a second drone minion. Well, Ultron says he's getting +1 attack for each drone minion engaged with us. This is 0 boost icon, so he's hitting us for 2 + 2, 4 damage. So we'll take that as Spider-Man, drop from 8 down to 4. Then, after the activation step, even though these minions just came into play, they're both going to attack us because all the minions activate right after the villain activates if we're in that activation step. So now we take 1 damage from a drone minion, drop from 4 down to 3, and take another 1 damage from this other drone minion, drop from 3 down to 2. One thing to keep in mind is that all the minions will activate after the villain only during step 2 of the villain phase. So let's reset this whole thing and pretend that we are on, step 4 of the villain phase, and we have the exact same boost here for Ultron. Let's get our hit points, back up. And then let's reset the situation here. And let's say Ultron, has this encounter card right here. He's going to deal with the face encounter card. And then we reveal it. And I already planted that there is an assault. So we review the assault. It says when reviewed in hero form, we are in hero form. The villain attacks you. So if this is reviewed here during, step 4 of the villain phase, Ultron's going to attack us. He'll trigger his force interrupt, get a face down drone minion. We're going to trigger Spire Sense. We can draw a card. And then he's going to deal himself a face down boost card. We're going to reveal it here, which is Android efficiency. So with the choose, let's say we choose to get a drone minion here again. Okay, so now Ultron, he still gets +1 attack for each drone minion engaged with you. So he's still going to do 4 damage here, 2 + 2. So we'll take that drop from 6 down to life. But now that's going to resolve the assault here, and these drone minions will not attack us. They came into play, they're not going to attack except for during step 2 of the villain phase, the activation step, right? Because we're already past that step. There is no other effect in play that's telling us to have these minions attack us, so they will not activate. So here I want to show you guys another example of how whenever minions come out during step 2 of the villain phase, that activation step, how the minions will immediately activate. So for this situation, let's say we are still playing Peter Parker Spider-Man, of course, and we have Ultron in stage 3 now, where he no longer has a force response or force interrupt tied into its activation. But for this situation, we also gave Ultron the Infinity Gauntlet modular set. So this is a permanent, setup attachment for Ultron. So it's attached to Ultron. He has +1 scheme, +1 attack, and we have that force response after the villain activates. Okay, so let's say Ultron's attacking us here. Well, first we trigger Spider Sense, interrupt when the villain initiates an attack, draw a card. So we can draw a card here. Now Ultron's going to deal himself a face down boost card. And then let's say we want to just take this attack to the face. So he's hitting with a base of 4, gets +1 attack there, so 5 attack, and this would be a boost right here of 1. So he's going to do 6 damage to Peter Parker Spider-Man. We're going to drop from 10 all the way down to 4 life here. Okay, now we're going to trigger the Infinity Gauntlet. It says, after attached villain activates, resolve the special ability of each Infinity Stone in play. Let's say for this example, we only have the Space Stone in play. So Space Stone says, special, discard cards on top of the encounter deck until a minion is discarded. So we're going to mill here until we get a minion. And then let's say we mill the Super Giant here because we are including the Black Order modular set. So this is a minion. So put that minion into play, engage with you, place this card in the Infinity Stone discard pile. So we have Super Giant into play, engage with us, and we're going to discard the Space Stone here. Okay, so Super Giant here comes into play. Well, she has Quick Strike, so immediately when she's engaged with us during, Ultron's activation, we're going to trigger the Quick Strike. So she's going to hit us here for 2. Well, we'll take 2 damage, drop from 4 down to 2. And her ability says after she attacks and damages the character, she is attacking damage Peter Parker. We get stunned. So we're going to give ourselves a stun status card here, very unfortunately. Okay, so that'll happen like that. Now it's going to be the step where minions activate after Ultron activates, right? Supergiant did not activate during the step where all minions activated. She activated as a part of Quick Strike. So now Supergiant is going to activate again with all other minions in play. There currently are no other minions, but she's going to attack us here again. And we only have 2 life left here, so we're going to have to exhaust and defend the attack, or else we just die. So it's very unfortunate if a minion comes out with Quick Strike during that step 2 of the villain phase, that activation step, because they're going to activate with Quick Strike and activate again naturally, after the villain activates. Making sure we don't forget these attacks is brutal, but it's a part of the official rules. Moving on to rules mistake number 9, and that's how indirect damage cannot be distributed to a character more than their remaining hit points. So let's say in this example, we are taking on Sandman here, and we are playing as Peter Parker Spider-Man, of course, again. And a Sandman has a force interrupt. Whenever he attacks you, that attack deals indirect damage. So let's say, for example, Sandman's attacking us right now. So we draw a card here with Spider Sense, and he's going to deal himself a face down boost card here. And then let's say we take the attack here to the face. So we review the boost. And it's going to be 2 boost icons, and he has 2 attack. So he's going to deal us 4 indirect damage. Let's get out 4 damage counts right here. So the way the indirect damage works is that we can choose how we want to distribute this damage, but we can't distribute it more than a character's remaining hit points. So Moon Girl right here has 1 hit point left because she has 2 damage counters. Black has 1 hit point left as well with 1 damage counter. So we cannot put all 4 counters, on Black Cat to knock her out because she only has 1 remaining hit point left. So we can only distribute 1 to Black Cat, 1 to Moon Girl, and then we still have 2 more left that we must distribute here to Peter Parker Spider-Man, dropping his hit points from 3 down to 1. So this is a very rough situation where, Peter Parker Spider-Man drops down to 1 life, and then both the allies here will get defeated as well. If Sandman was not dealing indirect damage, we could have just had, Black Cat or Moon Girl exhaust to defend, and all that 4 damage would have went on Black Cat. The final rules mistake number 10 is that Shadow of the Past will surge if your Nemesis minion does not enter the game this way from the set aside area. So Shadow of the Past here has very specific wording. When you review your set aside Nemesis minion and put it into play, engage with you. Review your set aside Nemesis side scheme and put it into play. Then you shuffle the rest of your set aside Nemesis encounter set into the encounter deck. If your Nemesis minion does not enter the game this way, this card gains surge. So normally, if your Nemesis set has not been touched, like for Peter Parker Spider-Man, his Vulture set right here is going to be set aside, so we can put the vulture, minion into play, the side scheme into play as well, and then we shuffle these 3 cards into the encounter deck. However, there are a couple different effects that can change this. So let's say if earlier in the game we played a card like Face of Past here, search the encounter deck discard pile and set aside area for your nemesis minion and reveal it. So we already played this card. The vulture has already been revealed. It doesn't matter, let's say he's in play, let's say, we already defeated him, so let's say like he's in a discard pile, or if he's in an encounter deck, it does not matter where he is. And after that happens, we still have all these cards set aside, but let's say that we reveal the Shadow Pass now. So it says, when reviewed, review your set aside nemesis minion. It is not set aside anymore, it's in the discard pile or in the encounter deck. Put into play, so we can't do that. Then it says, review your set aside nemesis side scheme. So we do put Highway Robbery into play and do the effects, for that side scheme. And then it says here, shuffle the rest of your set aside nemesis encounter set. So we're gonna shuffle these 3 cards into the encounter deck. So we're gonna do that, and let's just say, we do a really quick shuffle right here. And then it says right here, if your nemesis minion does not enter the game this way, this card will gain surge. So even though we put the side scheme in play, even though we shuffle those cards in, Shadow Pass will now surge, and we're going to get another encounter card because our nemesis minion did not enter the game through that way from the set aside area. Alright guys, there you go. 10 rules mistakes that beginners often don't know about, and as a result, unintentionally cheat to win games. Let me know down in the comments if you cheated any games with any of these rules, or if there's any other rules that you played wrong, making your games easier. Or if you never cheated, let me know too. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.